Hello, guys and gals, and welcome to another episode of Theorycraft. That's right, we're back for another Theorycraft episode after how long? I don't know. It's been a while. This particular character is going to be a rather odd duck, and it's one that I've been formulating in my mind for quite some time, and I finally want to put pen to paper and try and make it work. And what does this build revolve around? Well, it revolves around the absolutely gloriously beautiful Plague Fanged Knife. So the goal here is to create a Melee Necromancer. I'm going to call him the Plague Bomb, or sorry, the Poison Bomb. He is literally going to be eloquently known as Poison Bomb. And the goal of this Necromancer is to create a Necromancer who is not necessarily a Necromancer of, like traditional values. Obviously, the Necromancer has very few skills in the way of melee. In fact, one. That's all he has, which is Poison Dagger. So the build is going to be based around Poison Dagger, but not necessarily specifically Poison Dagger. And as you will see as we go forward, we can kind of finagle this a couple different ways. And if you've watched any of my theory crafts before, you will know that it doesn't always work out. It doesn't always stay as at the original plan, and sometimes it gets refined down to a much more usable format. So if you want to have some fun with me today on theory crafting, this is what we're going to be doing. So let me outline kind of my general idea for this character, and then we'll get into the nitty-gritty. So I wanted to focus on not just poison damage. So I had originally kind of thought that maybe I was going to use the Triangle's Wing, the Triangle's Belt, and the Triangle's Claws, and I kind of sort of pushed away from that. Although I do get the nice negative resistances on the 3-piece bonus from the Triangle's Wing, as well as the plus poison skill damage on the Claw, what I noticed is by doing this, I was a relatively weak Necromancer, and I was unable to dish out the amount of Crushing Blow and various other things that I would rather prefer to have. So, what we're going to be doing instead is we're going to be running a build which is going to be a lot more physically demanding. And the reason why we're going with something which is more physical is because we don't necessarily want to rely entirely on the poison. We're not trying to just be a poison necromancer. If that was the goal, we could certainly work it that way, and it wouldn't be too difficult, I feel like, to make that work. But that's not what we're trying to do. We're not trying to be a poison necromancer. We're trying to be a melee necromancer who leverages every form of damage that he can possibly leverage. So for that purpose, I'm going to be using a pair of 20% IAS dual leech 10% crushing blow gloves. I'm also going to be using a G-face with a 15% IAS and all resistance jewel in it. I'm also going to be using the Storm Shield Monarch, which also has a 15% IAS and resistance jewel in it. And a String of Ears for a little bit of extra life leech. Of course, that'll come in handy. And we're definitely going to be using, obviously, the Plague weapon, which is one of the big proponents of this particular build. Now, what are the benefits of using Plague? Okay, so right off the bat, we've got 25% chance to cast level 15 Poison Nova on striking. Okay, so this is a really big thing because it's going to give us an AoE damage component to our otherwise single target melee character. The goal of this is to provide an ever-present and ever-damaging Poison Nova, which will help us along the way. The level 12 lower resistance when struck, we have to get in there, we got to get beat on, but it will be up all the time, which is going to help us out a ton. The Cleansing Aura, of course, is going to keep us alive. As a melee necromancer, we're definitely going to need a little bit of help in the staying alive category. We also have some very nice 20% increased attack speed on this. We've got negative enemy poison resistance, which of course is going to help out our Poison Dagger. We also have the Deadly Strike, which is going to beef up our physical damage. We have the Open Wounds, which is going to provide us with an additional bleed, and the Freezes Target, which is going to help us a little bit in terms of making sure the monsters actually don't murder us while we're murdering them. And all of this comes together very nicely to reduce the amount of points that we need to spend. We don't necessarily need to put any points into low resistance because we have low resistance proccing on a regular basis on the knife. We don't necessarily need to build Poison Nova, but we're going to build it anyway because we want to get the highest damage for our dagger possible. So what we're going to be doing right off the bat is we're going to put in 20 points into Poison Dagger, Poison Explosion, and Poison Nova. It's a very nice little combination of abilities, and it's going to help us out tremendously. And you might be asking, well, why build Nova and why build Poison Explosion? And the answer is we have to. To get the damage that we want from the Poison Nova on the Plague, we have to build Poison Dagger and Poison Explosion. And to get the damage that we want on Poison Dagger, we have to put points into Poison Nova. Now, at level 15, which is what is on the Dagger, we have a 25% chance to cast level 15 Poison Nova on striking, which is a pretty high level Poison Nova, and it's going to get the full synergy bonus from all of the skills. So if you take a look at Poison Nova, you'll see that it gets 10% poison damage per level from both Poison Explosion and Poison Dagger, and it's going to be a very powerful ability. So we can go ahead and take the 10%, add it together, so we got 20, and then we could multiply that by 20, and that gives us the amount of extra damage that we're getting. So it's basically 20 times 20, which is a nice 400% damage bonus to the Nova. Now, the thing about on-cast abilities is that it goes off of the level of the ability on the weapon. Okay, so it's going to be level 15 Poison Nova, and level 15 Poison Nova is 288 to 329 damage. So if we take our 288 and we go plus 400%, we are getting a Poison Nova of 1,440. 1,440 to, see, 329 plus 400%. So 1,440 to 1,645 every single time the Plague Knife procs the Poison Nova effect. And the reason why we want this is because, well, Poison Dagger is extremely single target. We need a form of AoE damage to go along with our single target. We need something that's going to be taking out monsters, softening them up while we are working on that one or two monsters that are, directly in front of us. And for this reason, I've also prepared some equipment for a Mercenary. So we're going to be utilizing a Frenzy Barb on this particular build. And I took a lot of time and consideration to try and figure out exactly which one I wanted to build. And I ended up considering all the options, and what I wanted to use was a Frenzy Barb. We're going to go ahead and grab Boris. Come on, Boris. And I'm going to go ahead and put his equipment on real quick. You might be surprised at what I chose for him. You're probably thinking Griefs. That's not what I'm choosing. He's actually going to be using dual Crescent Moons. The reason why I want him using dual Crescent Moons is because I want him taking advantage of, number one, the lower resistance. Number two, I want him softening up every single target around me. And number three, I definitely want him to be useful, as an ally in the battle. So he is running a Fortitude, Fortitude. He's got 2 Crescent Moons in Conquest Swords with pretty nice damage. He's also running a Demon Horn's Edge Destroyer Helm. The reason why I chose this helm in particular is because it already has 10% IAS on it, and then I proceeded to put a 15 IAS Jewel in there, which helps him out a little bit in terms of attack speed. And then it also has the +3 Warcries, +3 Masteries, +3 Combat Skills, the Lifesteal. In general, I feel like this is going to be a better bet than something like Andariel's Visage, which I thought I had one sitting around. Yeah, I do. Andariel's Visage is decent, but I just feel like the Demon Sword's Edge might do a little bit better on him. Just in terms of his skills, his getting his Iron Skin a little bit higher, things like that. As you can see, he goes from level 16 Frenzy to level 19 Frenzy, so a nice little damage bump there. His Iron Skin goes up, his Taunt goes up, all of it goes up nicely, and he still gets the nice attack speed bonus as well. So he should be pretty well off. As for me, specifically, once I've got my poison skills, what I was thinking from this point was no curses whatsoever. You might be shocked, no curses. And then I'm also going to be putting in 20 points into bone armor. specifically because I'm going to be a melee character, so I'm going to want to cast bone armor on a regular basis. That's really all there is to it. It's any time that I have the opportunity, I'm going to go ahead and cast myself a bone armor. And let me go ahead and put my Raven Frost on. I have a Bull Kathos on the other hand, and a Raven Frost in one. And then I have the Gore Riders for the extra Crushing Blow, the Deadly Strike, the Open Wounds. Wearing High Lords for the extra increased attack speed. I believe as far as attack speed goes, I'm running a pretty hefty number. I have 135% right now. So I've got 15 on the shield, 15 on the helmet, that's 30, 20 on the amulet, that's 40, 50, and then I've got 45% on the treachery. And the reason why I'm running treachery, by the way, instead of something like +2 Chains of Honor or Enigma or something like that, is very simple. The Venom on striking has a strong effect to increase the damage of Poison Dagger, as well as the Fade When Struck will come in handy as, you know, I'm in there getting beat on. I'm also running a Storm Shield for the 35% DR and the String of Ears for the 15% DR. So I've got a pretty healthy amount of DR. I should be a very tanky Necromancer in general. It actually probably is going to come down to, can I kill things? I'm using 320/20 charms instead of any like all resistances or things like that because I want max damage. I want my damage as high as possible. I believe my physical damage by itself without the without the poison dagger is 197 to 834 with a permanent deadly strike, I believe. Yeah, 101% deadly strike, which means that every single hit that I make will be double that. So I'll be looking at 400 to 1600 per stab. And then I also have a 35% chance of open wounds here. I've got a very nice chance of crushing blow, 60% crushing blow. And then, you know, just all in all, I should be dishing out a pretty decent amount of damage to any target that I'm hitting. 16% lifesteal. Hopefully that'll help keep me alive. And we're going to go even further than this. So I still have 24 points left, and it took me a lot of consideration for this. But if I'm going to be a melee necromancer, you know what I really need? I really need to stay alive. That's the most important thing. So so what I decided was I was going to build Blood Golem. So Blood Golem was going to be my main source of everything, basically. And I had 1 point left over at the end of all of this. And I wasn't really sure what to do with it, but I guess having amplify damage is never a bad thing, so I went ahead and put 1 point into amplify damage. Now, at this point, with my poison dagger, I'm doing about 18k, but I do have to get my my fade proc before I know exactly, or sorry, my venom proc before I know exactly what my poison dagger damage is in total. So it might take me a little bit to get that to proc. My general goal here is to have a huge amount of damage coming out in multiple sources. Obviously, the monster that I'm stabbing is going to be relatively not happy. And then, of course, the monsters that... Mr. NiNi is being such a little rambunctious little turd today. He won't sit still. I don't know why I even bothered to bring him up here. He's just being really bad. Just very bad. He's being a very bad little turd. No. Digging on my neck. Stop it. Don't even have my blood golem up. So you're getting me all flustered, sir. Quit it. Quit it. Blood Golem costs 106 mana? Holy crap, he's expensive. He's supposed to be my main form of life leech since that's the goal here. Obviously, if I can't cast him, because I don't have any mana, that's definitely not going to help me out. I believe I put a mantled heal in here just so that I would have some form of mana leech. One time before I did a video, and I literally just totally forgot to put any form of mana leech on my character, and yeah, it was not a smart thing to do, okay? I admit this. Which is why the next time I made a video, I made sure to put a 7% mantled heal in the chest, just in case. All right, so we got our stats correct as far as like strength and dex goes. Let's go ahead and put in. I was actually trying to do max block. I'm not really sure how well that would work out with a Storm Shield Monarch, but man, I kind of want to do it. Let's see how many dex points it would take to get us to max block. The honestly, the attack rating is kind of important right now anyway. There we go, max block, and then everything else left in vitality. That should help out a ton as far as our survivability goes as well. And then, of course, I can get my blood golem up now, which is definitely very useful. And then what I plan on doing was putting the corpse explosion on my right click so that I could basically at any point I could do a little bit of corpse explosions. I could start murdering some stuff. I mean, the lower resistance will increase the fire damage of the corpse explosion, which is definitely very nice. The corpse explosions can be cast basically at any time by me, which is certainly very cool. And certainly not having any trouble so far. Definitely seems interesting. I definitely want to see if the Blood Golem can keep me alive. I feel like maxed out Blood Golem should be able to do at least that, is, you know, keep his master alive. That definitely does seem like the bare minimum that you could expect from a Blood Golem, right? The bare minimum. And there we go. We've got our Fade proc. We've got our Venom proc. As you can see, our Poison Dagger damage went up to 16,000 to 17,000 per hit. Let's go ahead and bump up the level of this. I do feel like I'm kind of rolling through content at Players 1. So let's bump this up to Players 3. And then let's go somewhere fun like River Flame. That sounds like fun. We'll do Chaos Sanctuary. Mr. NiNi is contemplating his life over here. He's about to jump on top of the green screen again. Would you like to go in here and hide? Like, I gotta make like a little pouch for him, otherwise he gets upset. So obviously here's some poison immunes. Actually not doing too terrible versus the poison immunes. The AoE poison damage is actually working out very nicely. I definitely think that that the Novas are proccing enough, and they're proccing you know, often enough that they are actually being useful. They're definitely doing a pretty significant amount of AoE damage, as well as the Crescent Moons on the Merc are actually doing pretty good as well. And I cannot get him to behave whatsoever. We should just change the name of this video from Theorycraft about Poison Bomb to the video where Mr. NiNi doesn't behave. I literally wrap him up in a blanket deliberately and get him stuck in there. Like when he's really bad, like I'll just like get him stuck in the blanket and he spends like 5 minutes trying to get out. I mean, as far as tankiness goes, I'm certainly not having any trouble. I mean, these are poison immunes. I really didn't expect to do very well against poison immunes, but I feel like I am. I feel like I actually am doing fairly well against the poison immunes, which is pretty surprising. I mean, as far as the damage goes, like every time I hit, I'm applying Deadly Strike and Crushing Blow and Open Wounds, which is certainly nice. Obviously, I'm doing no poison damage to these guys, which is pretty impressive, honestly. Just how well I'm doing against monsters that are completely immune to the poison damage that I'm putting out. And of course, I can lay in some Crushing Blows in here, which certainly is helpful. Speed things along a little bit. Certainly doesn't hurt to have a couple of corpse explosions here and there. One downside, though, of the Plague is that it does have freeze target on it, so if you want to make sure you've got your explosions, you'll have to stop attacking roughly a little bit before the monster dies. But see, the cool thing about Plague, or being a Poison Dagger Necro, is you can stop before the monster dies. Like, it's totally a thing. Like, you don't really have to, you don't really have to keep attacking. You just be like, alright, yep, I'm backing out. Alright, so like there's an issue right there, is durability. So the plague dagger is already breaking from massive strikes. It had to be like all poison immunes, didn't it? Couple corpse explosions in there. I mean, as far as survivability goes, I've certainly got that down. The lower resist is proccing enough that it is actually quite useful. Like, I'm literally seeing the poison, the lower resist on just about everything. The Fade is taking care of most of my resistances, which is definitely very nice. Let's get into Worldstone, or sorry, the actual Chaos here, where there's not like an entire sea of poison immunes. I'm trying to think whether we should try out leaning more heavily into the poison side of things, which we can do. If we lean more heavily into the poison side of things, what we're going to be doing is we're going to take off our Storm Shield. We're going to take off our String of Ears. We're going to put on the Trangs set. So what this is going to do is it's going to put us more in the realm of the poison resistance. So as you can see, we get negative 25% enemy poison resistance on the shield, and then we get plus 25% poison skill damage on the gloves. We also get cannot be frozen on the belt. So we don't necessarily need the Ravenfrost anymore, but I'm going to keep it on for attack rating reasons. And combine that, so we get the negative 23 here, the negative 25 here, and then, of course, the lower resistance. It should work out to more poison damage, but it's going to be less physical damage. I'm also going to be less tanky as well. And I accidentally clicked on that. My bad. I don't know. OBS loves some dang hotkeys. I'm going to tell you what, man. You could, like, freaking save the world with OBS's hotkeys. Adjank will hotkey you to death and all his mana and back. I'm gone. I'm definitely dying. And there goes my blood golem. It definitely became a lot less tanky as soon as I basically got into a zone where, you know, the monsters were cursing me and trying to take down my HP. The blood golem is really not restoring my health the way that I honestly thought he would, if I'm being perfectly honest. So this is the point at which we rethink things a little bit, all right? And why do we rethink things? Well, because it's not working out quite the way we want, right? Leaning into the poison damage, I don't think is the right path. The poison damage is really secondary to what we're trying to achieve. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to go back to the crushing blow, the DR, so that we're tankier. I feel like we were doing a lot better when we were in our tanky setup than we were in the non-tanky setup. Let's go ahead and refill these. But I would like to reset this. So instead of the blood golem, because the blood golem isn't working out very well, I want to try out a different spec. So let's try combining this with a summon necromancer. I feel like that could be an interesting combination. Maybe not like specifically to save our lives or anything, but just to let's grab is 75% block. We are a Melee Necromancer after all. We need our 75% chance to block. Alright. So same thing as before. We're going to put 20 points, 20 points, and 20 points. We're definitely going to still get the bone armor. But instead of running the Golem, throw 1 point in amp just for reasons. So instead of running the Blood Golem, let's just run something else. He's not really keeping us alive, so I'm not really worried about the whole like lifesteal thing. I'm thinking maybe skeletons, but I don't really know if I have enough points to make them strong enough. We could also just do a clay golem, which is arguably a very nice choice because of the slows enemy target. Let's try the clay golem instead. Let's beef him up to max. And then honestly, let's just build up our bone armor just a little bit more. I also have a swappy, by the way, which I don't think I even told you guys about. It's basically the Bone Shade, which plus 5 bone armor. And then the Spirit, which is +2, of course. And it gives me a much higher bone armor, so I'm at level 620 bone armor with the swap. So the goal there is just to get the swappy, basically. Alright, so Merc died. Everything went bad. Everything went haywire. Didn't really work out quite so well as I would have imagined. Mr. NiNi still's not being a good boy. I don't know why he wants to be such a bad boy, but he loves being a bad boy today. His whole life is being a bad boy, and he doesn't really even care. I swear, chinchillas have this, like, nervous tick. I've learned this over the years, and it's got to be one of the weirdest things that I've ever experienced with an animal. They need to know that, like, what they have is there, and it's going to be there, and it's going to continue to be there for forever, right? So, like, if you give them a house, they go in the house, they exit the house. They go in the house, they exit the house. They go in the house, they exit the house. And you might be asking yourself, why in Hezmana are they going in the house, out of the house, 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 in the house, out of the house? And the answer to the question is because they're trying to make sure that it's going to be there in 5 minutes, or 10 minutes, or 20 minutes. Like, they have to, like, build up in their mind, like, the trustfulness that the item will still exist in, you know, X amount of time or X amount of given time frame. Like, because if it's not going to be there, then, you know, they're not going to rely on this item. And so literally they will go in and out and in and out and in, and they just continue doing this forever and ever and ever and ever. And it is quite tiresome at times, because literally you will just be like, here's a nice cozy place for you, and they're like, oh yeah, a cozy place, and then they like go in and they like examine the cozy place, and then they leave, and then they stare at it from outside, and they're like, I don't know if this cozy place is gonna still be here tomorrow. And then they go in the cozy place, and then they go out of the cozy place, and they go in the cozy place, and they go out of the cozy place, and they literally never ever make up their mind as to whether or not they're, you know, like gonna stay in there or not. It takes them, like, literally, I swear, like a day and a half to decide that the place isn't gonna suddenly disappear, and that they're not gonna, you know, be without it tomorrow. Come here, Rockapishu. What's up, buddy? Does that hurt? Bleedy? You like that? Make you feel good? Well, we handed Rockapishu his butt in Players 3. I just gotta remember to keep casting my my bone armor whenever possible. I mean, it's pretty easy to see when your bone armor has disappeared. So I mean, it's a very clear thing. So here we got Griswold, who's immune to poison. So obviously, I'm not going to be able to hit him with the poison effects, but I should be able to. However, pop a couple of these corpses real quick around him. Why not? Not bad for a monster that was immune to poison. I feel like maybe my Merc did more of that work than I did, but... I feel like the amount of physical damage that I'm putting out is decent. I mean, it's not like I'm a frickin' like max level barbarian with a grief sword or something, but... Mr. Knee. Go inside your little blanket. I'm gonna roll you in there like a little turd. And you can just stay in there, little turd. Little turd. Come on down South Park and meet that turd of mine. Mr. Chinchilla, need my boy. He's then gonna buy you in the morning. Let's go kill the cows. I feel like that's a good test. Make sure I got my shield up. I don't need all these mana potions. Mana potions. How fast can I kill the cows with this setup? Stabby, 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 stab. Stabby, 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 stab. Honestly, as far as poison damage goes, the dagger is ripping things to shred fairly nicely. The poison nova is certainly very nice. The bone armor is protecting me as long as I recast it every now and then. I'm certainly not having any trouble with the bone armor. Lightning damage, though? I could literally sit in the middle of this group of cows, and I think I could just spam bone armor forever. Like, I could just go like stab, stab, bone armor. Stab, stab, bone armor. Stab, stab, bone armor. Stab, 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 stab. Oh, that was the Cow King, too. What's up, Cow King? No wonder. No wonder you're so murderous. You know, it's really sad that in the one situation that I think that Blood Golem probably would have actually shined is, you know, the process of keeping you alive with lifesteal. That it... Not only could it not keep itself alive... I don't even know. It's just sadness. It's my attack rating. 95% chance? It's not bad. Yeah, I was immune to physical, too. Oh, superior ghost spear. Poopies. I mean, I've got a couple things going on here, and this is Players 3. I mean, obviously Players 3 is going to be a little bit more difficult than Players 1. I don't feel like I'm doing poorly. I'm not doing quickly, that's for sure. I'm not doing quick. I'm not killing things quick. I mean, it's poison, right? Poison's not supposed to be quick. Poison's supposed to be slow and painful. I mean, I'm kind of liking the way my Merc is working out. Like, I really feel like he is actually softening up the targets for me quite nicely. Oh, God. Oh, goodness. Is there an elite in there? There is an elite in there, because obviously there's might involved. I don't see the elite, though. he was whatever he was bypassing my bone armor, which certainly was very ouchies. It's very ouchy.
I can't do that here.
Now I have absolutely no way to get my body back. I guess I could corpse explode. My corpse explode isn't particularly strong, though. My body! You shall not stop me. Man, that guy's over there murdering my mercenary, too. Definitely some sort of lightning enchanted monster. It's probably why I was getting my butt kicked. I don't know if you guys heard the shing 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 shing. That was the chilling armor proc from the fortitude that was literally going off over and over again because he was getting hit by some kind of ranged ability, and the ranged ability was then chilling armor basically fires back at the monster, so it's a constant backfire. Where is he at? We gotta take him out. Come here, buddy. There we go. Nice and bleedy. Nice and bleedy. And now what do you got to say for yourself? Nothing. That's right. Die. I mean, one thing right off the bat that I'm noticing here is that the weapon is breaking all the time. Yeah. I definitely got to do a lot of stabbing, and my weapon is definitely lowering in durability quite a lot. The AoE damage from the Nova is actually working quite nicely, I'm noticing. You can see very clearly that most of the monsters are either at, you know, like 25% or less health. So like the crescent moons that I have on the Merc are to get the monsters down to 50% relatively quickly, saves me a little bit of time. And then the poison novas are taking them down very quickly past that. Actually, quite quickly, actually. Like when you look at a monster, some of the monsters, like just like the general ones, the problem I'm noticing in though is it's not like killing them all relatively quickly. So I think what I need to do is I've got to work in the corpse explosions in with my attacks. I think that's where things are going to get interesting. So find a big group of cows like this, right? Gather them all up. Let them kind of stack up on me, right? Start killing some of them. Get a couple of them dead, and then once I've got a couple of them dead, start popping some corpse explosions. Which the freezes target on the plague is making it a little bit difficult, but that actually worked out quite nicely. I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you. I was in the middle of a whole bunch of cows, and I was not dying. Definitely got the tankiness thing down packed. If it wasn't for that, like, super elite lightning enchanted spectral hit cow that was murdering me earlier, I probably wouldn't have died. Because remember, bone armor only protects against physical damage. It's not going to protect you against elemental. You got to have other ways to protect yourself against the elemental damage. And we can start off with some corpse explosions. Finish off the group. Not bad. Not bad for players 3 cows. I'm going to be honest with you. It's not bad. Like, I feel like my character could be a little bit tankier. Could be a little bit more, I don't know, something. I could maybe avoid bone armor, which I feel like the bone armor is really helping keep me alive. But I could avoid bone armor, and instead I could go with something like 20 skeleton and 20 skeleton mastery. And that way I have a little army with me, as opposed to just simply running around, you know, by myself. I mean, I'm not technically by myself. I mean, I do have my beefy clay golem, and I've got my, you know, my mercenary, who are doing pretty good together. What's my range on my corpse explosion? 7 yards? I mean, 7 yards isn't bad, especially since I'm melee, and I'm gathering them all up anyway. Now, of course, because I am a Poison Nova Necro, I don't necessarily have to rely on the dagger to cast Poison Nova, and I think that's something here that I'm not, like, paying attention to. So let's play around with that idea as well, shall we? So, you know, as a Poison Nova or a Poison Necro, I have all these abilities. I can certainly use any of them, like, to my heart's content. I don't necessarily have to be using or relying on the Poison Nova, specifically from the item. So what I could do is I could be running, let's go and repair that. I could be running Poison Nova on my right click instead of Corpse Explosion. And as I'm inside of a group of cows, I could go ahead and tap off a couple Poison Novas here and there. Let's find another group of cows and let's play around with that idea as well. So my full Poison Nova is a lot more powerful than the one that comes out of the dagger. But of course, I don't have to spam it all the time. No, there's some monster in here who has non-physical damage. I literally came to the cows because I was looking for like a non-physical damage place to farm, just to play around with the bone armor, because I wanted to see how effective the bone armor was against the physical damage attacks. And of course I have to come across the non-physical damage, like spectral hit cows. Me, spectral hit cow, look at me, so fancy. So what am I noticing so far? What I'm noticing so far is basically this. Does it work? Yes. Does it work exceptionally well? Maybe not. But what it does do is it allows the Poison Dagger Necromancer to apply Crushing Blow, Open Wounds, Deadly Strike, you know, relatively easily to a target. So when I attack a monster that is, you know, like a relatively strong monster, I'm definitely noticing a correlation between the monster, you know, sort of like having high hit points and going down quickly, as opposed to not going down quickly. So like I am readily able to take down high level monsters with lots of HP. I feel like bosses in particular I could probably demolish with this, especially considering I've got a decent amount of open wounds, deadly strike, and crushing blow, and my physical damage is really not that bad. But I don't feel like the clay golem was the right path. So let's try one more path. I know you guys are like, there's so many paths. There is so many paths, actually. But let's try one more path, and we're going to try out a different build. So what we're going to do is we're still going to do the poison, as always. We're going to do the bone armor, because the bone armor really does help keep us alive. But actually, well, hold on a second. I messed something up already. Mr. Dazed. Alright, what we're going to do is we're going to do skeletons instead. So we're going to play around with the idea of maybe running a skeleton army with this. We're still, of course, going to grab Clay Golem and Golem Mastery and summon resist, but we're not going to beef up the golem. We're going to put all our points into the skeleton and then the rest of our points into the mastery. And that's pretty much what we're going to do. The rest of our 1 point can go into amp damage just for lulz. And let's go ahead and get our strength that we need. Our dex. Get our max block, because we still are going to be in there getting wailed on. And we definitely still need the attack rating to make sure that we are still able to hit our targets. All right. And let's summon our army, shall we? So we should be capable of a pretty decent number of skeletons. And the goal here, of course, is if you've ever been a melee character, ever, on any game, you will know that when it comes to melee characters, the more melee characters you have, the more melee fighters you have in a battlefield, the easier it is for you to traverse around and do what you need to do. So, you're not necessarily being specifically targeted by someone. So basically what this is allowing us to do is it's going to allow us to get in there and actually fight easier, hopefully. I couldn't get the bone armor with this particular build because unfortunately but what I can do is I can swap over and cast bone armor because I do have it on my my swap cast. Because of this bone shade, which is +5 bone armor, and then the spirit with all the other plus the skills, I at least have a level 20 bone armor, which is not bad, just for swap casting to the bone shade. So I'll have to swap cast to it when I need it. And let's go ahead and put corpse explosion back on. And let's see how well this works with my new set of bone armor in the form of skeletons. I'm actually rather digging this. The skeletons are allowing me to get in there and do what I need to do. They're acting as a distraction for the cows, so I don't have to worry too much about them. I'm not really necessarily relying on them specifically for damage. I'm just kind of relying on them as a very nice and very effective distraction. So I'm not constantly getting surrounded, which is definitely very interesting. I have to swap cast for the bone armor, though, which isn't really very fun. Maybe I should have taken at least 1 point and put it into bone armor. Now, you might be asking yourself, why specifically build it this way? Why not just cast the Poison Nova myself? Why not just cast the abilities? Well, the answer is because you're trying to combine together the ability to Crushing Blow, Open Wounds, not necessarily Deadly Strike, but of course Deadly Strike is nice. Your goal is to have your cake and eat it too, essentially. To be a caster type, to be a summoner, and also be able to apply some pretty amazing Crushing Blow hits as well. I mean, theoretically, if you did this properly, you might even be able to use this to kill the Ubers with, if you can hit. You might have to swap out some of the poison and bone charms for maybe max damage AR charms to get your attack rating up high enough to make sure that you're hitting the Ubers with every single strike. The Crushing Blow, of course, is not going to apply if you miss, so do keep that in mind. Mr. NiNi wants to be a little poo-face. He doesn't want to behave today. I don't know what to do with Mr. NiNi, except for maybe put him back in his house and tell him he's a butt face. A butt face. Now, obviously, Player's 8 is going to be a little bit more tough. Let's actually try some Player's 8, shall we? I feel like what's going to happen in Player's 8 is we're going to have trouble killing monsters. Very simply put. we are going to have trouble killing monsters. And I'm going to have to rely probably a little bit more heavily on the corpse explosion. Not entirely sure how it's going to roll, but I mean, we shall see. These monsters might not be players 8. I might have to go somewhere else. We'll see. I definitely am noticing a lot longer to kill any specific monster. That's for sure. And all of my skeletons are now dead. And my mercenary is now in the thick of it, getting wailed on. Interesting. I mean, that certainly didn't work out in my favor. But we did win the encounter. I'm pretty sure that was players 8, by the way, because the way everything got their butts handed to them. My poor mercenary. I mean, as far as the poison damage goes, and the crushing blow, and all that beautiful stuff, I mean, it's obviously still applying, but it takes me a heck of a lot longer to kill a player's 8 cow than it did to kill a player's 3 cow. Interesting. Let's go play around on players 1, though, shall we? I like to feel like a god among men. Let's go somewhere kind of nuts. Let's go to the Travancore Council. So you guys can watch me die in a horrible painfulness. I'm not really sure what I like better. The skeletons, the golem. I mean, the blood golem was an abject failure. The clay golem works out pretty well, and especially when you beef him up, he's like nigh impossible to kill, which is certainly very nice. The skeletons, though, require me to sacrifice the bone armor, which was helping keeping me alive during most of the confrontations. Not really sure. Mr. Ni just panicked and about had a heart attack. Tried to get back into the blanket. Remember when I was saying earlier, like, he likes to, like, stand there and look at it from a distance? He also likes to panic and, like, panic run to the thing to see, like, what kind of panic runs he can do to get back to his house. I swear it's like a guy who's constantly afraid that the world is going to end and starts doing drills to get into his secret bunker. Let me do some drills to get into my bunker. I tripped and I fell on this stick. Now I have to move this stick out of the way so that my path is safe. So, what do I have to say about this interesting build? Is it as good as I thought it was going to be? Maybe not. Does it work? Yes. It does indeed work. There is no doubt about the fact that it works. The venom added to the weapon, the poison dagger definitely takes out the targets. The crushing blow definitely is dishing out lots of damage. The open wounds is, of course, helping. The deadly strike is pushing out enough DPS that I felt like I was okay as far as my life and mana leech went. I definitely noticed that the clay golem and the army were useful. I'm not really sure which one I would consider more useful. I think the skeletons might be more useful than the clay golem in terms of like keeping yourself alive, just because it's of distractions. I mean, that's really all there is to it, distractions. The corpse explosion also, of course, is always useful, and you could theoretically just max out corpse explosion so that you're dishing out more damage this way instead of focusing on something else. And you know, corpse explosion comes in handy on any build that you do. And of course, if you're actively killing things on a regular basis, you're going to be able to explode corpses and dish out the damage. I do feel like this build is probably like legit broken in nightmare difficulty. It's really interesting how thin a line there is between doing enough damage that things are constantly getting murdered, or like not doing enough damage to the point where you're having a poor time or whatever you'd like to call it. Literally in nightmare difficulty, I'm fairly certain by the way the damage numbers worked out that literally if I walked up here and I stabbed anything, they would just get absolutely annihilated. I mean, I could even swap this to Players 8 Nightmare, and I'm pretty sure even in Players 8 Nightmare, like, the character just walks through all content. And of course you should, as a fully decked out, geared hell difficulty character, you should walk through nightmare difficulty. But it's just interesting to me how, like, vast a difference there is between, or not vast a difference, sorry, how thin a difference there is between just simply walking through content and having difficulty with it. And that wasn't quite as walky as I would have liked. I mean, yeah, I murdered everything, and it didn't take me that much effort, but I also got my skeletons. I forgot to raise my skeletons. Who doesn't like skeletons? Apparently this guy doesn't like skeletons because he didn't raise any. Players 8 Nightmare is still, I still walk through it, but it's not quite as walky as Players 1. Walkie. Wow. With a 25% chance to cast level 15 Poison Nova, I attacked six times in a row, and not a single Poison Nova went off. It just goes to show you how the percentages do whatever they want to do whenever they want to do it. Sometimes it's literally every single hit, and sometimes it's literally like one hit in 10. And the Poison Nova is where I'm getting most of my damage from, obviously. I don't even have to continue attacking most of the monsters. I think one of my issues is that I'm not, like, applying my damage correctly. Because I should be attacking one target, attacking another target. Instead of hitting the same target multiple times, I should just be simply stabbing a target and moving on, stabbing a target, moving on, stabbing a target, moving on. And it's not always possible in Melee to just simply stab every single target. You know, sometimes you've got to maneuver around monsters, so you don't always have the ability to attack the way that you would like. Pew, 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 pew. I'm trying to think what I could do to fix this build. To make it a little bit more viable. I mean, as far as attack speed goes, I feel like I've already probably hit my max breakpoint. I totally didn't mean to walk back through that portal. Man, Diablo loves to click you on portals, man, I swear. Somebody will just, like, make a portal nearby, and it's like, oh, you clicked on a portal? Alright, sending you through. No, wait, I didn't click on it. No, oh, man. So this is another option that I had in Stowe, which is basically Andariel's Visage, which has another Poison Nova proc. So the idea here, of course, is to have even more Poison Nova coming out. And I'm not exactly sure how well that's going to work out. But we could certainly give it a try. Let's go back to Hell difficulty. Let's go in I don't know, let's just go to Eldritch real quick. And let's see how the extra Poison Novas coming out work. One of the issues with this build, and what I was thinking in my head, was if I have an army, like I have right now, I'm not getting hit. So I'm not going to be proccing it. And I didn't think it would actually work out as well if I'm working with an army for distraction, essentially, right? I also needed to test out whether or not the what is it called? I needed to test out whether or not it procced while I had bone armor up, because I wasn't sure about that. I'm not exactly 100% sure whether bone armor will proc the effect. So so let's build that again. Let's go ahead and rebuild this. Let's go ahead and throw bone armor in there, and then let's do the clay golem again, because I feel like the clay golem was the better choice between the two golems. And then, you know what, let's just throw some more points into, like, bone wall or something, so that we've got additional plus on our bone wall. We can swap over a cast, so we get a little bit of extra health there. Let's grab our clay golem. I swear, Mr. NiNi, I think, is on some crack cocaine today. I don't really know what's wrong with him. He's all hyped up like he's on a sugar rush. Can't figure out what he wants to do with his life. He gets like this every now and then. Bad. That's what I call it. Bad. Bad. Alright, so I need to see if the Poison Nova procs from the bone armor. And it looks like it does. So useful, an extra proc of Poison Nova. I mean, the goal is we want it going off, like, all the time. We want the Poison Nova just, like, constantly hitting the targets, constantly applying the damage. Of course, the low resistance proc on there definitely doesn't hurt. Definitely like to have the low resistance proc up. I seem to be getting smashed by something that's not physical damage. Is this player's 8? I'm actually doing not bad. I feel like the Andariel's Visage is a good choice. What players is this? It is player's 8. Okay, well that was actually pretty impressive for player's 8. I'm not gonna lie. I was actually very impressed with that. It seems like the addition of the Andariel's Visage has made quite a change in the number of Poison Nova procs, and has definitely increased the damage quite tremendously. I mean, I did have that in the wings for that specific purpose. Wonder how that would work in the cow level. I feel like players 8 cows might be out of reach for us, but the first necromancer in history that actually wants to get the combat shrine, boys. That's right, 20k poison dagger, boys. What's up, Shank? Let's go, buddy. I got lots of daggers. Gonna poke you in the butt with my dagger. That sounds really dirty, but I swear it's metal. It's not a real... What? You know what? Let's drop it. Let's just drop it, boys. Just like when the dog has something. You just drop it. Drop it. You know, that was not terrible for player's 8. That was actually not terrible for player's 8. I was actually kind of impressed with that. It's an interesting build for sure. Why am I not casting? Oh, never mind. So 560 damage on the bone armor, 1,323 HP. Let's go to Worldstone Keep on Players 8 real quick, and let's see what's going on in here. I thought these guys were always immune to poison, but whatever. You're super dead now. Oh god. Charging snakes. Charging snakes. Yeah. What do you think of that, charging snakes? Yeah, punk. Yes, a punk. Alright, I think I'm going to call it for this build. I'm not necessarily going to call it as a success, or I'm not necessarily going to call it as a failure. I feel like this is definitely a build that is working. Is it like optimal players 8? I can farm everything in the universe? Maybe not. But does it actually apply the crushing blow as I planned? Yes. Does it apply the open wounds as I planned? Yes. Does the deadly strike come in handy for increasing the physical damage? Yes. Can I lifesteal with the dagger? Yes, I can. Does the lower resistance proc every single time you need it to? Pretty much. Does the Poison Nova spam enough? Not quite. I feel like in combination with Andariel's Visage, I got more to the level of the Poison Nova spam that I was looking for. So very interesting there that it takes the combination of the Plague and the Andariel's Visage to hit this. I think if you're going to run this particular build, you definitely want these two in combination. The Treachery might not necessarily be needed. You could probably do a Chains of Honor or something instead. I'm not really 100% sure. I felt like the Fade was nice and the Venom was nice, but I don't necessarily know if it was needed. It depends on how you want to build this. Like, if you want to be like a super tanky in-there Necromancer, basically a Melee Necromancer, then you might want to go with increased attack speed, because the Poison Dagger doesn't seem to go very fast. Even with the, what am I running? Like 155% increased attack speed. The DR definitely helps to keep you alive, but I probably could have worked out my resistances a little bit better. I'm not 100% sure on that. The bone armor was definitely nice, but it could be something that you avoid. I don't know. It really depends on how you want to build this character. I feel like there's other options. You could, of course, go with Life Tap Curse instead of lower resistance, but in that case, you probably would not build Plague, because Plague has obviously lower resistance on it. Obviously, any Necromancer build can incorporate Corpse Explosion, and you could theoretically, instead of beefing up, like the Clay Golem, you could put 20 points into Corpse Explosion, and you could have a relatively nice CE. As long as you were taking things out, you'd be fine. There's also the fact that you could, of course, spam the Poison Nova directly, so at any point that you need to, you could theoretically just simply spam the Poison Nova and get off a little bit of extra damage. You don't necessarily have to rely on the level 15 Poison Nova that's on the item. So, obviously if I'm in there and I'm attacking like this, then that Poison Nova is going off. But I could also be using this one as well, which is the higher level one, which does about 5,000 damage over, 2 seconds? I think whichever way you try to slice it, it's gonna be, I don't want to say a suboptimal build, because this is Players 8. I feel like it does Players 1 just fine, and it did Players 3 just fine. Players 8 obviously is a difficult thing for any character to achieve. And can he do Players 8? Yes. Does he do Players 8 quickly? No. And I think that's most characters are like that. Most characters are not going to do Players 8 like super duper duper effectively. And I've already spent about an hour and 9 minutes on this Poison Mom video. I hope you enjoyed this Theorycraft. My Theorycraft videos are usually long, so if you got this far, congratulations. And you know what? As always, thanks for watching, and keep watching.